Welcome to the Royal Family Real Estate Podcast, where none of us are shy about giving our opinions. We are a local, family-owned real estate brokerage and pride ourselves on being experts in the Chicagoland area. Join us on our podcast journey to hear what's going on in our local real estate market, as well as get an insider's point of view on this crazy industry. Welcome to the show.
All right, friends, back for another episode of the Royal Family Real Estate Podcast. We made it.
Here we are.
Yeah. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
Doing good?
Good. Loving the new studio.
Yeah. It's nice to be here in the new one for sure. Cool. Different look, different backdrop. I feel like it fits Royal Family's brand a little bit more than what we had before. Yeah. But
I don't like that I can't hide behind Royal quite as well in this one.
You're front and center, aren't you?
Yeah, that's by design. So he's actually zooming in right now, so he could see
stuff on my teeth.
Yeah, there's some nose hairs too. Yeah. So you probably should take care of that later. But we're gonna talk real estate.
No, you can edit that.
It's gonna be an education.
Right.
But excited to talk today. We're going to dive into home sale and home close contingencies and just the shift of the market, and give the people that are listening just a little bit knowledge of what that entails and what they should anticipate as this market continues to shift if they're looking to buy or sell. There's different moves and different options to be able to do. But before we dive into those contingencies, like what are we feeling in the market right now overall? I know we were talking about a shift, but what else? What are you guys feeling and seeing?
I'm seeing that it's slowing down in terms of, I guess, number of showings, not a little bit, but not necessarily at least in like the Schaumburg market, but just the number of offers coming through, buyers, agents asking if there's multiple offers and then maybe not even bringing an offer. Even
I hate it when they ask if there's multiple offers and there isn't.
Yeah.
I hate saying no.
Yeah. We've been so used to it too.
I just hate it.
Yeah.
No.
We've been so used to it for a while. I think if you price it right, market it right, it was going to go really quick, right? It was just the basic principles. And I still think those principles still apply. But just as this market shifts, to me, I look at the buyers right now because I'm seeing the same things as you're saying here in the Northwest suburbs, and a little bit different even out in McHenry County by you. But the buyers are like really cautious. There's like a cautious level to them. I think that's been here, but I feel like it's kind of heightened more so right now. I don't know if you guys are feeling that too.
I don't, like one listing, I've got 35 showings in the last 2 weeks. Schaumburg, one offer, and
which is good for those out there. 35 showings, that's good.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. And one offer, but then they ended up pulling because they just got nervous, and it wasn't even at a price that my seller probably would have accepted. So and all that, we're still getting good traffic. So it just kind of reminds me back to like pre-COVID. When it was kind of a quote unquote normal market, where it was like, okay, now you're in week 2 and we're coming onto week 3 and back then you didn't get this nervous at that point, but now you're getting nervous after you pass week 1 without putting a deal together.
For sure.
So definitely, re-engages that. Okay, how do we continue to be creative with this listing to get this thing sold? Communicating with agents because a lot of times you put it on and then the system kind of works for itself. Mm-hmm. But now it's definitely becoming a lot more engaged. So not that I wasn't engaged before, but you're having to do a lot of extra things because the market's not just pouring in these offers like it was and then extracting the highest and best.
Right. Yeah. I do feel like though, this is just what it is every year. This happens every year. You know what I mean? Like we should have expected it to be this way. It's just that inventory is still so low that you maybe didn't expect it to be this way. You know what I mean?
That's the problem.
Yeah. It's still so low, but and I just said this the other day, the buyers, I don't know if it's cautious, but it might be cautious, but I feel like every year around this time, you see a lot of backouts. Like June, you see a lot of under contract and then backed out. It's like they can kind of feel that the market has changed also, and they know they overpaid. They know they overpaid in late May and early June, and that in August and September, it's going to be less, and it is going to be less.
And usually,
so maybe
that's
demand,
that
right? Cautious.
Or backouts, could be because they're feeling like they have a bit more leverage in negotiations and they can't put the deal together, so they're backing out. Not necessarily maybe just because they got cold feet, but multiple different reasons. But they're becoming a little bit more in the driver's seat, even though they may not feel like it because they're still paying super high prices and.
Definitely still paying super high prices.
Definitely. And a lot of it depends, like, is the buyer just coming into the market, or we talked about last time, or if they've been through the ringer a little bit, those people still want a house,
true.
And
all of them are like drooling for an opportunity for them to have a little bit more power in this.
They would love to negotiate.
This relationship.
Yeah. They would love to negotiate.
Exactly. And then the when they start to see things happening in the economy or whatever, stock market, or people saying that housing isn't as good, which nationally it's different from what it is locally here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that gives them a feel like of empowerment, which in some cases it's the case, but not all. Mm-hmm. But especially like pre-COVID, I'm sure you remember, and you too, like when there were times where the nothing happened with the listing, and all of a sudden on a weekend or during the week, you all of a sudden get 2 offers that come in.
Yeah.
It's like you're just sitting there, and all of a sudden you're like, when is this going to sell? You're trying to figure out.
If I have to call my client one more time, yes, and say.
And all of a sudden there's multiple offers.
Yeah.
Or if you've had a buyer, and then this listing's been on the market for 20, 30 days now, and I just had that with an agent in the office. They had a buyer that was interested in this home. They were kind of taking their time, and now there's multiple offers on it. Thing's been on the market for, I think, over 30 days.
And then the buyer doesn't believe it.
Oh yeah,
there's multiple offers. We're sitting there now. It's multiple offers, but that does happen all the time.
Yeah.
That's what happened to my listing up in Woodstock. It was slow to move. We had one price drop in it, and then even with that price drop, we were on the market for 10 days, and then we got multiple offers. It was like, oh, this is different. Usually I'm like, all right, Saturday midday, highest and best Monday. It's shifting. It's not quite there yet. And it's changing the listing presentation too, just to be like, the market's still going and it's still good. There's still a shortage, to your point. Yeah. But we're shifting as of right now, just like we normally do this year. Yeah. That's a normal thing, but we are feeling that shift. So price, and to the point where like you want to make sure you're pricing it to the market for sure, and being I would say conservative on that. So you're not going crazy in overpricing. You're not going to get the showings you want. You're not going to get the right buyer pool. Where if you did that earlier in the year, you might have just got lucky. Just what it was.
And some of it's then using comps that didn't go under contract in probably February. Ones that went under contract last year, or some maybe late fall, January comparables that have closed, and before that appreciation took hold, and that because you can look at the graphs and see that average pricing is starting to come down. It's always peaks in June and then works its way down from there.
Yeah, I've had a couple CMAs in the last couple of days, and it was like I'm printing out InfoSparks. For those of you who don't know what InfoSparks is, like a data system that we have that tracks median sales price, contracts, showings of contract, market time, etc. Any data you need to be able to make a decision, it's there. And I'm printing out like, here's the last 6 months, but here's the last month. So you see the shift kind of happening in real time of this last month, the median sales price is down. Inventory is still low, but you see median sales price slowing down from what it did earlier in the year. So anticipate that. Be patient, but at the end of the day, it comes back to those 2 principles. If you price it right, market it right, your home is still gonna be able to sell.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So with the shift in the market, we haven't really been here like this, I think, in a little bit, where we're seeing this shift. I would say overall, this was the best year for our office, you're saying, so far year to date?
Yeah. We're at 35 million, and then we've got about 6 under contract. So we'll be at about 41 million. Usually we're in that 40 to 42 million. It's been we've never broken the 42 million mark. So we're at 41 already, and we still have 4 solid months of closings to come into play. So it'd be pretty surprising, like unless we just like shut the doors and go to Miami until January.
option.
It's actually what we were talking about.
Well, it has been a good year.
It's actually St. Pete.
Yeah. He's mentioning that, or
listening on our phones.
Right.
So it's cool to see. I'm talking to agents out in the community that I'm connected to, and not everybody's having a great year. I feel really blessed that we have had a good year, and I'm going to go back to, I think that goes to a testament to the systems that we have. But now we're having to guide our clients and being our best year yet, and looking into 2025, which I think is our goal to continue to improve. The market's shifting, and now we have to guide our clients a little bit differently. And we are seeing, a home close and even maybe a home sale contingency come through. Let's look at this from a seller standpoint first, and then I want to just touch base a little bit from a buyer standpoint. But from a seller standpoint, what should what should they know when it comes to being able to work through and not being scared of a home sale or home close contingency? Now, to let either of you pick it up and go.
From a seller's standpoint, what should they not be afraid of?
Yeah,
is that the question?
I think if you hear that now, it's like you haven't had to deal with that a little bit. Like if there was a home close contingency, that was like we got 8 offers, that was number 8.
Right.
It wasn't there. But now it might not be your number 8. It might be your only one, or you might have 2 offers that both have that, which I do think is probably healthy for the market and allow more people to move. But
so I think, first off, you're on the market on the opening weekend and you get a home to sell contingency, and it's probably not something that you're really, you're going to look at, but
tell an agent to get the house on the market.
Like it's kind of hard to get that accepted opening weekend,
Sure.
So one thing that certainly helps, if you're a buyer standpoint, home to sell or home to close, it would be market time. That I think market time the more time you're on the market, the more willing a seller is to accept that scenario. Mm-hmm. Like the one where I've got 35 showings and we only have 1 offer and it didn't get put together, that seller is going to be very open to a home to close contingency. Right now, home to sell, I don't know, we'd have to evaluate to make sure that we feel that that's the right property. But I think that is definitely an opening. The door is creaked open a little bit on, let's say, that listing, then it wouldn't have been at all in the beginning.
Right.
So market time makes a difference. But if you're a seller, like say it's a home to sell contingency that comes in, what I'm doing is asking for the comparative market analysis, the CMA on that property that they're going to be listing. So I want to know, what's the valuation, what price are they going to put it at? Like to see some pictures on it. There's times where I've gone and looked at the home just so I can get a feel for how saleable this is going to be. And then obviously want to know what price they're going to be at. Because I've had in the past where they're going to list it at a ridiculously high price. And I'm like, no, that's just not, it's not going to sell.
Yeah, you're not going to hit these marks that you're trying to hit.
Yeah. And one of the benefits of a home to sell or home to close, but more so home to sell, is that those people are having a hard time getting that accepted elsewhere. So they might be a lot more likely to give a higher price, because they know that their offer is not as competitive.
For sure.
But, if they're going to be listing a condo that is going to sell right away at the price they're going to list it at, that's a lot. That's something digestible as opposed to something that, is a very unique home. They're pricing it high. The comparables are hard to find that you think it's just going to sit there, and then you can only give them a certain period of time to sell it. You can go 2 weeks, and, a month or whatever. And then, so they've only got a certain period of time. But you also have to take into account, where are you going in the market? Like right now, every day gets closer to the winter market where things get slowed down. Like if we're taking one in January or February, every day that goes by, we're getting to a stronger market.
For sure.
Right. So right now you got to be really cautious on what you take, because then you're under contract. You can still show it, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Yeah. But, that showings really drop off once you go contingent.
Right.
Yeah, you don't really.
They drop to nothing.
Yeah,
they drop to nothing.
That's my experience with it too.
Pretty much.
Maybe you get a trickle in every once in a while, but it's usually not much.
So, just for anybody who doesn't understand, home close means the buyer is making an offer. They've already sold their house. It's under contract, but it hasn't closed. So it's contingent on that closing. Home sale means they have not sold their house yet. They don't have a closing date on their house, and they just want you to take their offer and give them a certain amount of time to get theirs under contract, just in case anybody's not familiar with those two things.
Right. So maybe they've got theirs on the market, or they're
maybe they
going to
don't
be listing it,
or going to be here relatively soon.
Case. Yeah. And to me, those are two totally different scenarios, right? Like a home to close, as long as you do your homework on it, sometimes that home to close, they've already been through a home inspection. They've already been through attorney review. They just have a closing. They're already clear to close. You know what I mean? Like, look at that all day long. I would tell my clients to consider that strongly all day long.
For sure.
Where home to sell, that's a lot more risk.
A lot more risk. And you're just, when we get those as listing agents, we're putting in more work on the front, because not only are we checking your offer, but now we're going to Royal's point. Maybe we're stopping at the house. Maybe, we're at least asking for pictures and for comps in the area. I'm sure you guys do it too, but like, I'm calling that lender too. Like, that's a huge piece of this that I don't have control over. So calling that lender to be
and
like,
the lender for the buyer, like if it's a home close, you're not just calling their lender, you're calling their buyer's lender. And getting the contract and looking at the contract, because I don't know how many times I've looked at that contract in the past, not in the current market, and it was also home to close. So it was like a domino of houses closing. And I'm amazed how many times agents don't ask to see that contract.
Oh yeah.
And
definitely.
And it is never filled out right. Whatever they put on the contract, that's never what's actually happening. Like almost ever. It's amazing. So without looking to see, like, you really don't know what's going on.
It's what I like to call job security,
Yes.
It definitely helps. I feel like you see, and being top listing agents, you see really good offers written, and then you see offers that are like, what are you doing? Like, you're missing something here, and it's not hitting all those bells and whistles. So, okay. So from a seller standpoint,
to be honest with you, I've never, ever advised a client to accept a home sale contingency. And I don't know if that would ever change, honestly, because this is kind of how I handle it. If they call and they say, we don't have any other offers, right? So we want, if we have 16 offers and they say, well, they accept a home sale, I ask my client, but usually it's like, let's not waste everybody's time. We know we have 16 other offers that aren't home sale contingent. But if we have no other offers, right, I will encourage them to write that offer, because I want to get that number, because a lot of times that number is going to be that higher number because they know they're writing a home sale contingent. But then I tell my client, we talk it through the whole time, and it's like, let's look at it, right? Sure, we're open to it. You're always open to it, right? But at the end of the day, the seller is taking all of the risk. Mm-hmm. All of the risk. The buyer's taking zero risk. Seller's taking all of the risk, which just eats at me. I don't like that, right? If it's my client, I don't want them to do that.
Sure.
So I will generally say, like, what about if we respond this way, right? We chatted through, what if we respond this way? Thank you so much for the offer. We really, really appreciate it. We would love to work for you, but we just kind of feel like we are taking all the risk. We don't have anybody else here. We have no other offers. I don't even have any showings coming up right now. We really don't want to accept this right now, but how about you go put yours on the market let's chat every day.
Do the work.
Let's keep in contact every day.
Yeah.
And I have sold several that way, where we didn't accept the home sale close, but we just kept the communication opening while they went and sold theirs. And one time when they came back, they did change the price. Like, okay, now we're not home sale contingent. We want to change the price.
Sure.
But I just think that that's a more fair way for my client.
I don't even mind
if
that.
You can get them to do that.
Then the risk is eliminated. Like, let's talk. And especially if we haven't had an offer beforehand, like,
and I think they understand that when I say my client's taking all the risk if we accept this. How about you put yours on? If we sell before you sell yours, you just pull yours off. Mm-hmm. But how about we just communicate our way through this? We all want the same thing, and hopefully we get it. And so far, that's always worked out for me.
Yeah, I've never accepted a home sale contingency either. I'm more like, do your work, get the home on the market, like do your due diligence, And
but in the current market, some people are afraid to put their house up because, sometimes they need that other agent to talk them through it. Like, well, just take it down, right? Just put it up. And if we sell, you'll just take it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But, like if you've got that seller, that's your buyer and now that's a seller.
I have the seller on that.
No, I know. But I'm saying if I've got the buyer and you're telling me that,
yeah,
and my buyer has another property that is willing to do it and it's a comparable property and they're just going by whatever's going to be most convenient for them because, putting a listing on the market is, it's an effort.
But how often do they have another seller willing to take that home sale contingency?
Well, it depends on market time, the market. Right now, not often, but like if you've got another seller that is potentially, and again, this is like a rare scenario, right?
Yeah.
But it could be where they move to somebody that this is just a potential, and that you explain. I'm sure you explain that to your seller.
Yeah.
Hey, if we don't do this, they may go with somebody else. Well, but it's probably less stress for us if we just wait. Of course it is.
Right.
But for them to put it on and take it off can be really disruptive based on their situation. If they've got a family and kids and showings and trying to get it ready for sale.
For sure. But it's also really disruptive for us to take it off the market. Yeah. Nobody's looking at it. Like,
it goes back to the sellers carrying the risk.
Let's be fair. Let's share the risk. I don't know if I would always recommend that, but so far that's always how I've handled it, and it always worked out, and everybody's happy and everyone's amicable, and just at the end of the day, I just think it's all about your communication with that other agent.
That's it. And I think, we're going into a pretty crazy time. We won't dive into it, and crazy maybe is the wrong word. It's just a different time. As of August 17th, we're not going to have the
D-Day.
D-Day.
Is that what you call it?
We're going to be a t-shirt. D-Day, August 17th.
Yes.
But things are going to change to me, and in the ways of it's going to be even more important how we communicate as agents. And we've all had those agents, whether they're part-time or people that just aren't very professional, that have come to the table. Well, whether it's the commission talk or whether it's a home sale or home close contingency, that agent communication from the buyer and the seller agent is gold. And if you have that gives that almost takes some of the risk away. If I know I could talk to you and we could talk the same language and we're looking to build a win-win for both of our clients, we could go far as long as we're willing to take a step at a time.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it too is that, I have a comfort level with both of you that if I had a family member, or I know that you guys would represent the client the same way I would.
For sure.
And ultimately what it comes down to is that you give all the options, which I know both of you do. You give all the options to the seller. You give your opinion, and then they make the decision, right? But you've kind of said, okay, if we do this, this is the route that it could go, and this is what I would do if I were in your shoes. But what do you think?
Right.
Yeah, totally.
and that's it. That they're the ones making the call, but we're the ones giving them all that information of 20 years in the business that they can then use to pull what they think is the best decision. And then you've done all the research. If it is a home to sell, you've dug into that. You can tell them what your thoughts are, the saleability, all of this. And again, rare case, but as these listings go on the market and you get one showing and it's a hard home to sell, it becomes a lot more of a conversation than when it's opening weekend.
For sure.
For sure.
So were you gonna say something else, or?
No, go ahead.
I think for me, I'm thinking about the buyer now. We've had so many people on the sidelines because they couldn't get into a home with a home close contingency, or even definitely not a home sale contingency. Right. Well, now you have hope. So if you have a home to sell, work on getting it ready, during this, as the market shifts into the downward time of the year, your ability to be able to get in a home, if you have another home to sell, is easier than it was 3 months ago. So if you have been on the sidelines, maybe now is a time for you to talk with your agent, call us, however that looks, to be able to okay, if I do need to find a house and I need to do it upon, a contingent to close, which I would be let's do all the work and then let's get it. I'll help manage everything else in between. But I feel like there's hope for them now, where before people I'm not selling because I'm not going to be able to find anything, especially in your area. There's no inventory down here, but there's nothing nothing.
There's nothing. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. And it would be so much better if home sale contingencies came back into the market. It would make people feel better. It would help move things and get more people involved. But I can't say I recommend it. I can't help that. You know what I mean? But
unless I'm representing you as a buyer and I'm selling your house too, and then I can navigate you through that. So that being said,
currently, if somebody called you up right now today and said, hey, we want to, look at this house, and you said, okay, what are you doing with your current house? Well, do you have to sell that? Yeah, we have to sell it. You have to sell it to buy this. And they say yes. How does that conversation go for you?
Well, I think first off is just meeting with them to do the pricing on it.
Right.
So we have an understanding of what their equity position is, and then getting a pre-approval, and then from there, it might be talking about other options. Well, do you really have to sell that, or could you maybe get a line of credit depending on your equity?
A bridge loan with like Fairway. It's not a bridge loan, but it's a bridge loan type product, right? Where they're taking your equity.
Sure.
Out.
Yeah.
But you know that through the pre-approval stage.
Utilize some type of cash to where maybe now you can buy instead of having to sell it, and then sell it as long as you think it's going to be very saleable and you're okay with that kind of like that bottom line number that we recommend, that we're not going to go probably any lower, which is, an educated guess, but it hopefully will give them, a
sweating just level. Thinking about it.
Yeah. Right.
Especially in a shifting market.
That's something where you kind of give them, hey, like this bottom line number, like you have an idea whether or not, but it also depends on when they're going to be listing that property. And so you're kind of pulling all those factors in.
Right.
So I think it's analyzing that whole situation. And if it truly is, and I would get it, they don't want to do anything else until they get this sold or under contract.
Or they can.
Then it's, okay, let's see if there's enough out there that you like right now, and if there's enough inventory where it's like, I could go with a couple of these homes for sure. No question.
Right.
Then it would be, okay, let's put your house on the market. Let's get a contract, and let's, we got a good solid 2 to 3 weeks to find something.
Right.
And then you have a home to close contingency, and which is going to be a lot better. But now if you have someone that like is adamant about a home to sell contingency, then you're just having that conversation about how that's going to be a challenge.
Right.
And you're probably calling those agents beforehand to see if their seller's open to it before showing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to limit their options, and they're probably going to have to pay more because they're going to be not in as good of a.
And they're going to be falling in love with houses they can't get.
You're ruining your leverage.
Yeah. So you go over that, and then they make the choice. You give them the options, and then maybe after a while they say, you know what, let's just get ours under contract, and maybe we've got some interim housing that we can do, and then become a much stronger buyer in the market.
I've had a lot of people do that. Like they're just planning to rent, an apartment for a while.
Go stay with a family member for a little bit, whatever. I think those people, that's a good move to have if you have it. Like not everybody can do that, but I think having an option so that you don't have to pigeon yourself into a hole or a house that you don't want. I think that's obviously super important, but it goes back to like, it's just every client's different. So it's having that conversation, it's learning like what are, their wins and what are the roadblocks that are going to help them get to the close, and letting them make the decision from there, but just helping them be their guide at the end of the day. Right.
Yeah. And I've had clients that have a real, need the equity from their home.
Right.
But their house is going to be very saleable. They don't have a mortgage.
Right.
So they could go down to a pretty low number, and it's okay for them because it's all paid off, and they understand their position. Maybe they're going to get $500,000 for the home, and they're buying a $300,000 home, whatever. So in that scenario, I've had it where they just get a line of credit, and you can't have your house on the market when you're getting a line of credit, right? So you got to get the line of credit, and then you can put your house on the market. But the bank won't give you the line of credit if it's on the market while you're trying to get it. So then they get that cash on the line of credit, and then it's kind of like a credit card, so to speak, where you just you can use 200,000 of it, and you still have 100,000 left, and you're only paying interest on the 100,000 or 200,000. Is that what I said? 200,000 you use, and then you're just paying the interest on it. And then when you close on your house, it gets paid off right away. So maybe it's a 3 to 4 month thing. And it was a great way for them to, make that purchase without having to worry about the sale of their house.
Right. In fact, all the buyers I had this year, they just qualified to hold both the mortgages. So they didn't even have to do that. They just
goes back to that process. Like if they could carry both, and we know that we could sell theirs quick. That's the best option.
That's the best option.
That's going to allow us to negotiate,
or the line of credit, or however you can do it that way. Yeah.
And you could put you can pull credit off of your stock portfolio, and just get a loan based on whatever, if they've got a certain amount of money in their stock portfolio.
We should have a whole show on Royal's financial advice of how to work it.
That's coming next.
How to best get that house,
right? I'm almost at max out of my recommendations here. Or they could use retirement funds.
See, you got moves.
They got to pay those back, right?
If you need moves, call Royal Hartwig. He's got a lot of moves for you. But I think overall, market's shifting. Kind of recap: home sale contingencies. Do some more work if you're out there. Most likely, in most cases, home close contingencies we can get you in now. I think, at least a lot more likely. Obviously, nothing's promised, but a lot more likely to be able to get you in as we slide into this part of the year. So I think of this part of the year, we're sitting here in August now, and this next 4 or 5 months is going to go by really quick. So there's people that are sitting out there like, well, maybe now is not the right time. But maybe in the spring, like, should they be reaching out to us now to be able to start talking about what is the options for the spring versus now and what that could look like for them? Do you think they should be reaching out to us now to have that conversation? I
think you should always be reaching out to your agent and saying, this is my plan and how should I best execute it? I have a client, right now that will be listing in the spring because that's the best time to get the money on her house, but she can afford to hold them both. She doesn't have a mortgage on her current one. I said, buy in the fall, sell yours in the spring. Then you're making out best on both ends.
That's it. Yeah. Every situation is different. Or I have people that are calling me for the going in next year now. Like, what work should I do? So it's not all pressured. They've been in their house for 40 years. Okay, well, here, start here, and kind of give them a roadmap to be able to get there. Especially a lot of my business is a senior business, and you can't really go quick if you're a senior all the time. You need to have a good plan in place, or else it just becomes really overwhelming.
Yes,
you can typically only do one thing a day.
Yeah,
as a senior.
Yeah.
If you've got an appointment, that's the whole day.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Oh, I've got to earn it first. Awesome. So,
I'm being funny, but I'm joking. But
because it's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, even if you're not a senior. Getting your house ready for market. Now there are always those people. Like, I went to her house yesterday. I'm like, I can pay the stager to come in here. But I think the most she's going to have to say is put a basket of flowers outside your front door. Because the inside is meticulous. It's minimalistic. There's just not, anything to say. And I lost my train of thought completely.
But you were saying that sometimes there's not as much to do, but there's little things.
Oh, yeah. But sometimes if you're just like a normal person, you don't live in a staged house. And it is a lot to do.
Yeah. 100%.
It takes people months all the time, just regular, people that have a life outside of getting their house ready to sell.
Yeah. It's quite common as we get into these next, especially like October, November, then we start having a lot of conversations where we're just, maybe doing an evaluation, giving an initial point of view, and then keeping in touch, giving them contractors and just kind of, like you said, putting together that plan, that strategy,
roadmap,
and then
step at a time.
Giving them an idea of when would be the target date to list and how that fits within their scenario.
And also, I don't know if you guys would agree, but if you're asking me for contractors, they're going to be much busier in the spring and take longer to get there than they are if you call them in November.
For sure.
That's true.
Yeah. Especially whether you're calling us or not, usually that's the key. Right. Most people want to do their work on their home during those months, right? I know for me, selling my house, it made me a better realtor because then I got to see it from like their side, and it is a lot of work. So I think having a plan in place to be able and working with a guide to be able to help you get to that end game so that you don't take extra steps, I think is super important, and having that relationship with your agent. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of this year and helping Royal Family get to its best year yet. And being a part of that with you all means a lot for me. Anything else we want to add before we close up shop?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say one thing we kind of didn't discuss with the home to sell or close is that you can continue to show it.
Oh yeah.
And, an offer.
But
I've had it happen once.
Yeah.
Where, a buyer bumped the other out, but it was a whole thing. But it is an option, and that's important that the buyer know that.
Right.
That,
and they don't like that.
Oh, no,
when you tell them that when you're going through even for the like home close, that they can continue to show it. And I'm like, but nobody's going. I mean, I don't even have my buyers set up to receive those homes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's so hard to bump them. I don't know anybody who wants to pay for a home inspection and go through all that and then possibly still not get it.
And get bumped. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I didn't even understand that they had to do all that till you told me.
Yeah.
Because that's how often this even happens. Never.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's very rare.
Yeah. But it is important to share that with them. And
as a buyer, you could cross that out.
Yeah, I have crossed it.
Crossed that, not allowing it to be shown.
Yeah.
So
it better be a really good offer. Yeah. I don't think you're going to get much to her point, but I still think to have that leverage there to be able to do that, it's going to put your clients in the best interest because you don't know, somebody could just be coming on the market and be like, that's the perfect house with no contingency to sell. Like obviously you want them to be able to see it. Right. But it doesn't happen often, right? It's not an often game, but it is an option.
Yeah. Just yesterday, a client wanted to see one that was home closed, which reads as active on all the other sites. Like on Zillow, that will say active.
Oh, yeah.
So you'll say, oh, well, it's contingent. No, it's not. Zillow says it's active.
Yeah.
So Zillow will leave home close contingent as active.
That's good to know.
Say that it's contingent. But, I say, we can go see it. I'm sure they'll still show it and we could try to bump that. But here's the process. And she's like, never mind.
Get through home inspection, attorney review, and then they give notice to the other side.
Yeah.
And then the other side has to be able to drop their home to sell or close contingency.
Right.
And then if they do, then they get it, but they also have to be able to do that because maybe they're going contingent because they can't finance it otherwise.
Yeah.
Right.
So timing is key on all of that for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Anything else on the home sale contingency or anything else?
Oh, all good. Waiting for this big change.
I was going to say, let's close out in a prayer. No.
I'll be interested to see what we look like next month.
Yeah. The industry.
I'm not in real estate anymore.
The industry, an empty seat.
The industry is changing. How we do things with the MLS's support is changing. But the good news is I feel really confident being at Royal Family Real Estate. Just listening to whatever the heck you say, followed by what you see. And I think that our team is in good places because of that. And we'll continue to be in good spots. So we'll manage the gray as we go into this new field on August 17th to manage how we're going to, help get our clients homes and how we're going to help, manage the listing side with how commissions are differently. But I have trust that we got people's backs.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Anything else? You want to dance or anything before we end out the show? No, okay.
I'm not a dancer.
All right, I'm not a dancer either. That's good for you guys. Peace out, my friends. Join us next time. If you're looking for real estate support, you're going to get trusted guides here at Royal Family Real Estate that really care about what they do. So please call us at the office and we'll go from there. Peace.